whispers in the void. Far beyond the familiar constellations, where stars burned like scattered diamonds against the black canvas of the cosmos, rumors drifted through the void. Whispers that spoke of a human weapon so advanced, so unimaginable, that entire civilizations had tried and failed to uncover its secrets for centuries. In the crowded star lanes of the Orion expanse, these whispers were dismissed as mere folklore. Most species laughed at the notion that humanity, a species considered primitive, could possess such power. The Xiphorians, a proud and ancient empire, were among the most vocal skeptics. Their fleets spanned sectors, their fleets were the envy of the galaxy, and their arrogance was unmatched. They regarded humans as quaint, fragile creatures, barely capable of handling the technology that other species took for granted. In the vast halls of Xiphorian warships, holographic maps flickered with strategic plans, yet the name human barely registered as a footnote. Still, Kalen Rither, a human operative, knew otherwise. Stationed aboard the human vessel Eclipse, Kalen moved with quiet precision, his eyes scanning instruments that no alien technology could comprehend. Every system on the ship pulsed with energy, from the quantum plasma engines capable of faster-than-light travel to the shields that bent light and energy around the vessel, rendering it invisible to even the most sophisticated sensors. The Eclipse was a marvel of human ingenuity, a floating testament to what humanity could achieve when pushed to the edge of survival and innovation. Kalen's hands hovered over the control interface, fingers brushing the holographic projections as he conducted simulations. Each scenario projected fleets of alien ships, mighty Xiphorian battleships bristling with weapons, only to be reduced to drifting wreckage under the calculated strikes of Eclipse. The simulations were terrifying in their efficiency, yet they weren't enough. Kalen knew the galaxy was a dangerous place, and caution, even with such overwhelming power, was necessary. For centuries, humans had been underestimated. Their colonies on distant worlds were ignored, their ships dismissed as fragile relics of a species not meant for the stars. But humans had learned. They had survived the harshest conditions on alien planets, endured conflicts that would have shattered other civilizations, and built technology that other species could barely imagine. Kalen, like many of his kind, had grown up hearing the stories of Earth, of its wars, its struggles, its triumphs, and he carried that history with him as both a weapon and a warning. The whispers that had reached the farthest sectors of the galaxy were a mixture of fear and incredulity. Traders, smugglers, and explorers all claimed to have glimpsed fragments of human ingenuity, a cloaked vessel appearing from nowhere, a single human fighter capable of outmaneuvering entire squadrons, or an unknown weapon system that left enemies disintegrated without a trace. The stories were scattered, unverified, yet persistent. And as the Eclipse moved silently through the void, Kalen knew that the whispers would soon become undeniable reality. The stars outside the ship stretched endlessly, distant suns and nebulas painting the darkness in colors that were both beautiful and haunting. The Vorith Nebula glimmered ahead, its clouds of gas and dust swirling in slow, majestic motions. It was the perfect hiding place for the Eclipse, a natural cloak where even the most sophisticated sensors of alien fleets would struggle to detect anything unusual. Yet Kalen did not hide forever. Patience, strategy, and timing were everything. The galaxy's ignorance was a weapon as potent as any plasma cannon, and he intended to wield it with precision. Inside the ship, Kalen's mind wandered to the larger mission. Humanity's survival depended not just on secrecy but on the revelation of strength at the right moment. Every species that underestimated humans was another potential threat neutralized before it could fully form. But this was not mindless destruction. Kalen fought for a message, a lesson that humanity was no longer a species to be patronized or dismissed. And the galaxy, so long arrogant in its superiority, would learn that lesson in a way it could not ignore. The hum of the ship's engines was steady, almost meditative. Kalen had always found comfort in the quiet precision of human technology, the kind of mechanical elegance that combined intellect, experience, and a stubborn survival instinct. His ancestors had struggled to reach the stars, surviving catastrophes that might have destroyed lesser species, and every bolt, every circuit aboard the Eclipse was a tribute to that legacy. The whispers in the void were not just rumors, they were the anticipation of a reckoning written into the very fabric of human history. Kalen's thoughts were interrupted by a signal ping from the ship's external sensors. It was faint, almost imperceptible, a ripple in the dark currents of space. Someone, or something, was approaching. Kalen studied the readings carefully. The Xiphorians, of course. He had expected it. After all, rumors of the human vessel were spreading faster than the Xiphorians could investigate, and their arrogance made them predictable. They would come, confident in their superiority, certain that the humans could pose no threat. Kalen allowed himself a small, grim smile. The galaxy's ignorance had a cost and he intended to collect it. The Zyphorians, like many before them, had underestimated humans, assuming they were fragile, ill-prepared, and primitive. But in their hubris, they did not consider the resourcefulness, resilience, and ingenuity that defined humanity. The vessel that now hovered unseen in the void would soon reveal the truth, and the consequences would echo across the stars. For Kalen, the mission was personal as well as strategic. He remembered the stories his grandmother had told him as a child, tales of Earth's struggles, the wars that shaped human society, and the determination that allowed a seemingly weak species to rise against all odds. That spirit, embedded in every human mind and every human creation, was now concentrated in the eclipse. A single vessel capable of delivering a message loud enough for the entire galaxy to hear. The whispers in the void, the rumors of human power, were no longer just stories. They were the prelude to revelation, a subtle warning carried through the corridors of space. Every species that had laughed at humanity, every empire that had scorned human colonies, was about to witness what happens when a species long dismissed chooses to unveil its full strength. Kalen took a deep breath, his gaze fixed on the distant nebula. Time was not on his side, yet patience had its rewards. The galaxy believed humanity was weak. It believed humans were insignificant. And for now they were right. The eclipse remained invisible, a ghost among the stars, biding its time. But when the moment came, the galaxy would understand. Ignorance has a price, and Kalen Rither and his vessel were about to collect it. The void was silent again, but the silence carried weight, heavy with expectation. The stars seemed to shimmer in anticipation, the distant suns glinting like watchful eyes. Somewhere in the darkness, the Zyphorians plotted, unaware that their assumptions were already obsolete. And as Kalen adjusted the controls, fine-tuning the ship for the journey ahead, he felt the familiar thrill of strategy, of power, of inevitability. The whispers in the void were only the beginning. The true revelation of human strength was yet to come. And when it came, no species in the galaxy would ever forget it. The hidden arsenal. The eclipse drifted silently through the darkness, cloaked by the dense clouds of the Vorath Nebula, its engines humming with barely perceptible energy. From the outside, it appeared as nothing more than another fragment of the swirling gas, invisible even to the most advanced sensors of the galaxy's fleets. But inside, the ship was alive with motion, its heart a symphony of human ingenuity and ambition. Kalen Rither stood at the helm, his eyes scanning the holographic projections that filled the control room. Each display flickered with star maps, sensor readings, and tactical simulations, painting a picture of the galaxy that only he and a few humans could interpret with clarity. This was more than a ship. It was a weapon, a laboratory, a vault of secrets, and most importantly, a symbol of humanity's underestimated potential. Status report. Kalen's voice was calm, almost meditative, but beneath it ran the tension of anticipation. A soft chime echoed, and the ship's AI, Lyris, responded in her measured, human-like tone. All systems nominal. Cloaking field stable. Quantum engines at 22% capacity. Weapons are online but in standby. No external contacts detected beyond routine spatial fluctuations. Kalen nodded. Good. Prepare the tactical simulations for engagement. I want 30 variations of the Zyphorian fleet scenario, include their standard maneuvers, reinforcements, and potential deviations. I want every possibility accounted for before the first shot is fired. The AI's holographic display shifted, projecting an array of alien warships, sleek, menacing, and heavily armed. The Zyphorians prided themselves on their firepower, believing technology alone made them invincible. They had not accounted for humans who had survived planets turned hostile, who had engineered weapons not for vanity but for efficiency and survival. Kalen walked along the command deck, touching the edge of a glowing console as if drawing strength from it. His mind wandered briefly to Earth, to the world that had given him his foundation. It was a fragile blue planet, a cradle of life and struggle, but also of ingenuity. Humans had emerged from wars that should have destroyed them, from catastrophes that had broken lesser species, and they had risen stronger each time. Every bolt in the eclipse, every circuit in its core, was a testament to that resilience. He paused at the ship's central chamber, a cavernous space filled with weapons systems that seemed to hum with silent anticipation. The eclipse's arsenal was unlike anything known to the galaxy. Quantum plasma cannons capable of disintegrating entire cruisers in a single shot, shield generators that bent light and energy, rendering the ship invisible, and engines that allowed instantaneous bursts of speed far beyond what Zyphorian calculations deemed possible. Kalen allowed himself a faint smile. These weapons were not built for aggression alone, they were built to reveal the truth. Humanity was underestimated, and the galaxy's ignorance would be paid in lessons written in light, heat, and fury. As he reviewed the systems, Lyris spoke again. All weapons functional. Tactical arrays calibrated. Cloaking matrix optimized for nebula interference. Excellent, Kalen said. Engage stealth protocols fully. Prepare for observation. Observation was key. Humans were not brash, they were deliberate. Every movement, every attack, every revelation was calculated to maximize impact. The Zyphorians, confident in their superiority, believed they could probe the nebula without consequence. They did not yet know the void was a stage set for their humbling. Kalen's thoughts drifted to his crew. Few humans had boarded the Eclipse, each selected for their unparalleled skill and unwavering loyalty. Though small in number, their collective knowledge spanned centuries of human innovation. Engineers capable of rewriting the physics of propulsion in their sleep, strategists who had studied alien tactics and predicted outcomes with eerie accuracy, and warriors who could adapt to any battlefield in real time. The vessel itself was an extension of these humans, a single consciousness born from collaboration and necessity. The Eclipse was not just a ship, it was humanity's voice in a galaxy that had long ignored their existence. And soon it would speak loudly. Kalen tapped a sequence on the console, bringing up a 3D map of the surrounding sectors. Red icons dotted the periphery, the Zyphorian patrols, unaware of the human presence. They moved with confidence, each ship a symbol of arrogance. Kalen's lips curved in a grim smile. The galaxy's greatest mistake was never their weapons, their fleets, or their strategies, it was their assumption that humans were insignificant. A memory surfaced in Kalen's mind, a lesson from his earliest training. Humanity had survived not because of raw power, but because of ingenuity and adaptability. While the Zyphorians relied on rigid hierarchy and predictable maneuvers, humans thrived on improvisation, on rapid adaptation, and on turning weakness into strength. Every aspect of the Eclipse reflected that philosophy. Lyris, he said, run a full diagnostic of the cloaking systems. I want every frequency, every wave interference accounted for. We cannot afford to be detected prematurely. Diagnostics complete. Cloak efficiency at 99.8%. Only minor energy leakage detected, insufficient to trigger standard fleet sensors, Lyris confirmed. Kalen nodded. Good. Let the galaxy believe in their myths a little longer. Let them whisper of human weakness. Their arrogance is our advantage. Beyond the nebula, the stars stretched endlessly, indifferent observers to the silent preparations unfolding within the Eclipse. The void, so vast and quiet, held secrets that could topple empires if used wisely. Kalen understood that power alone was not enough. It required timing, precision, and the element of surprise. Humanity had learned that lesson through survival, and now it was ready to apply it on a galactic scale. As the human vessel drifted further into the nebula, Kalen allowed a rare moment of reflection. The galaxy had dismissed humans for centuries, assuming that fragility equaled weakness. They had failed to recognize that human strength was more than physical. It was creativity, resilience, and determination. It was a spirit that refused to yield, even against the vast, indifferent expanse of space. The Eclipse pulsed softly, engines ready, shields humming like a heartbeat. Kalen felt the thrill of anticipation, the awareness that the moment of revelation was approaching. The galaxy would soon learn that the myths, the whispers, the warnings, all were true. Humans were no longer to be underestimated, and the consequences of ignoring them would be written in fire and plasma across the stars. With a final glance at the holographic projections, Kalen leaned back slightly. The Eclipse was ready, its arsenal hidden yet lethal, its presence unnoticed yet inevitable. The Zyphorians, confident in their superiority, were moving into position. They had no idea that their assumptions were about to be shattered, that their arrogance would meet precision designed by centuries of human experience and ingenuity. The hidden arsenal was more than a collection of weapons, it was a declaration. And when the moment came, the galaxy would learn a truth that could no longer be ignored. Humanity, underestimated for so long, was now fully revealed, and it was far deadlier than anyone had imagined. Kalen Rither's hand rested lightly on the console, feeling the vibrations of power beneath his fingertips. The human vessel was silent, patient, and lethal. And in the quiet of the Vorith Nebula, amidst the swirling gases and distant stars, the stage was set. The whispers in the void were not just stories, they were prelude. Humanity's hidden arsenal would soon speak for itself. The encounter. The darkness of space stretched infinitely, a canvas dotted with distant stars that twinkled like fragments of forgotten civilizations. In the midst of this expanse, the eclipse drifted silently, cloaked beneath the swirling mists of the Vorath Nebula. Kalen Rither stood at the helm, eyes narrowed as the sensors hummed softly, feeding him data with a precision only a human mind could interpret. Approaching contact, Lyris the AI announced in her calm, steady voice. Kalen's hand hovered over the console. Distance: 30,000 kilometers and closing. Signature: Xiphorian warships Type 9 class. Formation intact, no deviation from standard patrol patterns. Kalen allowed himself a momentary smile. The Xiphorians, proud of their fleets and confident in their dominance, were moving precisely as predicted. Their arrogance was a predictable weapon in his favor. They think they are superior, Kalen muttered to himself. They think the myths are just stories. Soon they will learn their mistake. The Xiphorian ships were impressive. Sleek, bristling with weapons and armored with technology centuries ahead of most civilizations, they moved with the poise of a species that believed no one could challenge them. Their sensors, sophisticated though they were, could not detect the eclipse, invisible to their scans, a ghost hiding in the nebula. Recommend continued observation, Lyris advised. Cloaking system stable. They are unaware of our presence. Kalen nodded. Patience was key. The humans had never survived by rushing headlong into battle. They survived because of strategy, adaptability, and the ability to turn weaknesses into advantages. The Xiphorians had no idea that their assumptions about humans, fragile, insignificant, predictable, were about to unravel catastrophically. As the fleet approached the heart of the nebula, Kalen studied their formation. Line by line, ship by ship, he ran simulations in his mind, predicted movements, potential attacks, weaknesses. Each calculation sharpened his strategy, each projection bringing him closer to a revelation the galaxy would not forget. Prepare the tactical array, Kalen ordered. Holographic displays shifted, overlaying the fleet's projected path with calculated attack vectors. I want every escape route accounted for. Every defensive maneuver, every possible countermeasure. They will come thinking they have the advantage, but they won't even see it coming. For decades, humans had been underestimated. Their colonies had been ignored, their fleets dismissed as insignificant, and their species considered incapable of challenging the galaxy's established powers. But human ingenuity, persistence, and adaptability were unparalleled. The Eclipse, fully equipped with cloaking technology, quantum plasma cannons, and shields capable of bending light, embodied centuries of human innovation. It was not a ship built for intimidation, it was a weapon designed to reveal truth. The Xiphorian Admiral, Thrixus Valorn, commanded from the bridge of his flagship, Dominion of Scars. His voice carried authority tinged with disdain. Sensors detect something unusual near the nebula, he said. Investigate. Deploy the scout drones. I want verification before we dismiss this as gas interference. A junior officer, visibly nervous, tapped at the console. Admiral, our scans show nothing. It's just the nebula. Humans, Thrixus muttered under his breath, though no one else heard. He had heard the whispers, the rumors passed from traders and explorers, but he believed them exaggerated. A single vessel may be experimental. They are not a threat. Kalen observed all this through the Eclipse's long-range sensors. The Xiphorians' overconfidence was palpable. They were skilled, yes, but predictable. Their arrogance, their rigid tactics, their refusal to consider that humans could be a serious threat, these were their vulnerabilities. Kalen smiled faintly. The galaxy had ignored humans for too long, and now it would pay a bloody price. Lyris, he said, maintain current trajectory. Continue passive observation. Prepare the defensive arrays for deployment, but do not engage yet. Wait for the perfect moment. The Eclipse glided deeper into the nebula, the swirling gases providing a natural cover. From the outside, it remained invisible, a phantom hiding amidst the luminescent clouds. Inside, Kalen ran through contingencies, each scenario ending the same way. Humans victorious, Xiphorians shattered, their arrogance laid bare. Minutes passed, or perhaps hours. Time in the void was fluid. Then, a subtle ripple of energy registered on the sensors. One of the Xiphorian ships had deviated slightly from the formation, sending a probe to scan the nebula. Kalen's fingers flew across the controls. Intercept the probe, he ordered. A soft hum echoed through the ship as the defensive systems activated, silently neutralizing the Zyphorian sensor. It disintegrated in an instant, leaving no trace. Perfect, Kalen said. They will not know we are here, yet. The Zyphorians remained unaware of the human vessel hidden just kilometers from their formation. They moved with confidence, certain of their superiority. But the galaxy was about to witness a revelation. Kalen allowed a moment of contemplation, thinking of his ancestors, humans who had survived catastrophes, wars, and extinction events. Their ingenuity, their ability to adapt, had allowed humanity to rise. And now, all of that knowledge, all of that perseverance, was concentrated in the eclipse. Prepare for decloak, Kalen said quietly, more to himself than to Lyris. When the time comes, we show them who underestimated humanity. The first shot would not just be an attack, it would be a declaration. The humans would no longer be invisible, no longer dismissed, no longer weak. The Zyphorians, who had mocked human potential for centuries, would understand their mistake in ways they could never unlearn. And as the fleet edged closer to the heart of the nebula, the tension in the void was almost tangible. Stars seemed to dim in anticipation, and the gas clouds swirled as if aware of the coming revelation. Kalen's pulse quickened, not out of fear but anticipation. Every human who had ever struggled, fought, and survived on countless worlds was a part of this moment. The eclipse was their voice, their proof, and their reckoning. Finally, Kalen leaned back slightly, allowing himself a brief smile. The Zyphorians would soon see what humans had kept hidden for centuries. They would see what happens when arrogance meets ingenuity, when ignorance faces truth. And in the silent expanse of the void, the first act of revelation was about to unfold. The encounter had begun. Revelation. The nebula's swirling gases glowed in muted greens and purples, casting eerie shadows across the sensors of the Zyphorian fleet. They moved with confidence, convinced that no significant threat lay hidden among the drifting clouds of the Vorith Nebula. Their formation was flawless, or so they believed. Within the eclipse, Kalen Rither's eyes were sharp and unyielding, scanning the holographic displays that projected the approaching Zyphorian ships. Every calculation had led to this moment, every strategy honed for a single purpose: to reveal humanity not as prey, not as a minor nuisance, but as a force that the galaxy could no longer ignore. Lyris, Kalen said, his voice steady, almost serene, prepare for decloak. All weapons at ready. Targeting matrices locked on Zyphorian fleet. Shields optimized for maximum interference absorption. This is it. The AI responded without hesitation, her voice calm and precise. Decloak protocols initialized. Energy dispersal optimized. All systems ready. Kalen's hand hovered over the control console, poised like a conductor about to raise his baton. Outside, the void remained quiet, but within the ship, a symphony of power thrummed beneath his fingers. The eclipse was no longer merely hidden. It was a harbinger, ready to reveal the consequences of centuries of underestimation. A faint ripple of energy passed through the nebula, almost imperceptible to the Zyphorians, who continued their approach with arrogant certainty. Then, in a calculated moment, Kalen activated the decloaking sequence. The eclipse erupted from invisibility in a blaze of silver and cobalt, its hull reflecting the nebula's colors like molten metal. Light bent around its edges, shields shimmered in radiant waves, and the vast quantum engines flared briefly, leaving streaks of ionized particles in the void. The Zyphorians froze. Sensors went haywire. Communications channels erupted in static as the fleet attempted to make sense of the anomaly. On the bridge of the Dominion of Scars, Admiral Thrixus Valorn stumbled back from his console. His eyes widened in disbelief. What is that?" he bellowed. How is it?" Kalen's lips curved into a faint, controlled smile. "Humans," he whispered to himself, almost reverently. "They finally see us." The first Zyphorian ship attempted to fire, its weapons trained on the now visible vessel. But the eclipse moved with unnatural grace, engines flaring in bursts faster than thought possible. Plasma shields bent the incoming energy around the hull, rendering the shots harmless. The Zyphorians' arrogance collided with reality in a wave of confusion and panic. Kalen activated the plasma cannons. They hummed with lethal energy, targeting the lead ships of the Zyphorian formation. In a heartbeat, entire cruisers disintegrated under precise bursts of quantum plasma. The explosions were contained but devastatingly effective, leaving no chance for the enemy to recover. "Target the flanking ships," Kalen ordered. "Neutralize without warning. Let them understand the consequences of ignorance." The Eclipse glided among the fleet like a phantom, moving faster than the Zyphorians could track. Each strike was surgical. One ship here, another there, demolishing their assumption of superiority. Fighters evaporated mid-flight, battleships crumbled, and the galaxy's once proud fleet became a tableau of chaos and awe. Sir, sensors are failing. Ships are being destroyed with impossible precision. A junior Zyphorian officer shouted, voice trembling. Thrixus clenched his fists. Impossible. It cannot be human technology, they should be primitive. Kalen observed, calm and methodical. His mind catalogued every reaction, every failed maneuver of the Zyphorians, reinforcing a truth humans had known for centuries. Underestimating humanity was deadly. The Eclipse's decloak was not just a tactical maneuver, it was a statement. Humanity, long dismissed as insignificant, had revealed itself in its full glory. The Zyphorians' assumptions, their arrogance, their centuries of blind confidence, all shattered in moments. The first shockwave of fear rippled across the fleet as the humans demonstrated what innovation, strategy, and determination could accomplish when combined with superior technology. Kalen allowed a brief pause. The galaxy needed to understand the message fully, and precision mattered. One misstep could allow the Zyphorians to regroup. Then he engaged the maneuver sequence. The Eclipse darted between the larger vessels, weaving through their formation with impossible speed, striking weak points and leaving trails of glowing debris in its wake. Target the flagship, Kalen commanded. Let them witness the cost of arrogance firsthand. The Dominion of Scars was massive, its hull layered in reinforced alloy and ancient shields, but even it was no match for the human vessel. Plasma beams tore through its defenses like sunlight through fog. Alarms blared across the Zyphorian fleet as the flagship began to disintegrate, and for the first time the Empire's pride faltered. Thrixus roared in fury. Destroy it. Focus all firepower. But it was too late. Every weapon the Zyphorians unleashed was either deflected, absorbed, or rendered irrelevant by the Eclipse's advanced technology and Kalen's flawless tactics. The humans were not only present, they were unstoppable. The nebula bore witness to the revelation. Light bent, shadows danced, and the void itself seemed to tremble as the truth unfolded. Humans were no longer hidden. Humanity had survived, adapted, and evolved beyond the assumptions of the galaxy. The cost of ignorance was written in plasma, fire, and debris, a stark reminder that arrogance had consequences. Kalen leaned forward, his eyes scanning the final coordinates for the Zyphorian retreat. Prepare the final strike, he said softly. Let them remember this day. The Eclipse fired one last volley, shattering the remaining defenses of the fleet. Ships that had once symbolized Zyphorian dominance floated broken and silent among the stars. Survivors drifted in stunned awe, realizing the truth. Humans were no longer insignificant, no longer prey, and no longer to be underestimated. Kalen allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. This was more than a victory, it was a revelation. Humanity had unveiled its potential, and the galaxy would never forget the day the Eclipse decloaked. The void returned to its usual silence, but the stars themselves seemed different, illuminated by the echoes of human ingenuity and power. The Zyphorians, once proud, now understood that the cost of ignorance was paid in blood, and the galaxy had witnessed the full measure of human capability. Kalen Rither straightened, his eyes fixed on the horizon of distant stars. The mission was far from over, but the first chapter had been written. Humanity had revealed itself, not as a myth, but as a force capable of commanding the cosmos. And the galaxy would never underestimate humans again. The price of ignorance. The void was littered with silence, broken only by the faint hum of drifting debris and the distant flicker of energy from shattered Zyphorian ships. The Vorith Nebula had become a graveyard, its once pristine clouds now glowing with scattered fire and fragments of destroyed vessels. The galaxy had witnessed a lesson few could ever forget, the cost of underestimating humanity. Kalen Rither surveyed the aftermath from the helm of the Eclipse, his expression calm but resolute. The decloak had achieved its intended effect. The Zyphorian fleet had been humbled in mere moments. Ships that had epitomized arrogance and power now floated like wrecks, their crews either destroyed or drifting helplessly in the vacuum. Every strike, every maneuver had been precise, deliberate, and mercilessly effective. Damage assessment, Kalen commanded. Fleet neutralized. Primary targets destroyed. Secondary units incapacitated. Casualties, high, Lyris replied in her usual composed tone. No critical damage detected on the Eclipse. Cloaking systems intact. Kalen exhaled slowly. Good. Prepare for observation and data collection. I want every Zyphorian tactic logged, every miscalculation noted. The galaxy should know the cost of ignoring humanity. The Zyphorians were in shock. On the bridge of the Dominion of Scars, Admiral Thrixus Valorn struggled to maintain composure. His pride, once unshakable, had been shattered in a heartbeat. He stared at the ruins of his fleet, disbelief mingling with fear. How is this possible? He muttered, his voice trembling. Their technology, their tactics, it's beyond comprehension. Humans, how? One of his officers, pale and shaking, whispered, They must have had centuries of hidden development. Nothing else explains this. Every prediction failed. Thrixus slammed his fist against the console, the first real display of vulnerability Kalen had ever observed from a Zyphorian. He realized, too late, that arrogance had blinded them to reality. Every assumption they had made about humans, fragile, primitive, weak, had been wrong. And the consequences were written across the stars in fire, debris, and silence. Kalen allowed himself a brief, grim smile. This was exactly the lesson humanity intended to deliver. For centuries, humans had been underestimated, dismissed, and ignored. Entire civilizations had assumed that humanity would never rise beyond the confines of their small, blue world. The Eclipse and its pilot had now proven otherwise. Lyris, Kalen said quietly, commence retrieval operations on any survivors that can provide intelligence. Treat them as sources of knowledge, not vengeance. Humanity's strength is in strategy, not mindless slaughter. The AI's holographic displays shifted, marking drifting Zyphorian pods and damaged ships. The Eclipse moved with methodical precision, recovering what could be salvaged without unnecessary risk. Every action Kalen took reinforced a crucial point. Humans were intelligent, deliberate, and capable of restraint, even when victory was absolute. Beyond tactical concerns, Kalen's mind wandered to the broader message this encounter would send. The galaxy had long ignored humans, laughing at rumors of their prowess and dismissing whispers of hidden weapons as myths. Now, those myths had been made reality. Humanity was no longer a species to be patronized, it was a reckoning. In the nebula, the remaining Zyphorian ships attempted to regroup, but their coordination faltered under the psychological shock of the Eclipse's capabilities. Where once there had been confidence, there was hesitation. Where once there had been arrogance, there was fear. The cost of ignorance was not measured merely in destroyed ships. It was measured in shattered pride and the realization that they had been blind to the very species they sought to dominate. Kalen observed every movement with meticulous attention. They are attempting to flee, he noted. Do not allow panic to dictate our actions. Continue tactical pressure but maintain discipline. Let them understand the precision and inevitability of human strategy. The Eclipse struck again, targeting key command vessels and severing communication channels. Each action was calculated to maximize impact, but not to provoke unnecessary destruction. The message was clear: humans were not to be underestimated, and arrogance had consequences that were immediate and devastating. Kalen's mind reflected on the centuries of human history that had led to this moment. Humans had survived against impossible odds. Natural disasters, interplanetary conflicts, and existential threats that would have obliterated lesser species. Every hardship had honed their ingenuity, every challenge had strengthened their resilience. The Eclipse, and the pilot guiding it, were embodiments of that relentless determination. As the final remnants of the Zyphorian fleet limped away, Kalen allowed a moment of silence. The stars reflected off the hull of the Eclipse, illuminating the ship like a beacon. In that light, the galaxy could see humanity's message: underestimate us at your peril. Prepare for long-range communication, Kalen ordered. Send a signal to the Zyphorian remnants. Make them understand fully: ignorance has a price and it is a cost they will never forget. The message transmitted through the void, clear and undeniable. Its content was simple, yet its meaning profound. Humans were no longer hidden, no longer weak, and no longer passive observers of the galaxy's arrogance. As Kalen watched the last Zyphorian ships retreat, he reflected on the broader implications. The Eclipse had revealed what humans could do, but more importantly, it had proven that resilience, ingenuity, and strategic brilliance could overcome assumptions, fear, and prejudice. Humanity's place among the stars was no longer negotiable, it was undeniable. Lyris, plot course for the next sector, Kalen said. The galaxy needs to see that the Eclipse is not a singular force. Humanity is everywhere, ready to rise wherever ignorance threatens. The AI responded, her voice calm yet carrying the weight of significance. Course plotted. Destination set. All systems ready for extended travel and engagement. Kalen allowed himself a brief, rare moment of satisfaction. The battle had been decisive, but the war for recognition had just begun. Humanity had proven its power, but the galaxy's arrogance would continue to challenge them. Each victory was a lesson, and each lesson would cement humanity's legacy as a force to be reckoned with. Outside, the nebula drifted quietly, its clouds swirling around the remnants of war. The eclipse glided through the aftermath, a silent sentinel and harbinger of a new era. The cost of ignorance had been paid and the price was clear: blood, fire, and shattered pride among the stars. Kalen Rither stood at the helm, his eyes fixed on the distant horizons, already contemplating the challenges ahead. Humanity had revealed its strength, but the galaxy would continue to test them. And when it did, the humans would be ready. Because the price of ignorance was a lesson the galaxy would never forget, and humans would be there to collect it. The human spirit. The eclipse drifted silently through the void, leaving the charred remnants of the Zyphorian fleet behind. Stars glimmered like distant promises of both danger and opportunity, their light piercing the nebulous swirling mists. The battlefield had fallen silent, yet the echoes of the recent destruction lingered, not just in the debris floating among the stars, but in the minds of those who had witnessed the first revelation of humanity's might. Kalen Rither remained at the helm, his posture relaxed but alert. Victory was never an excuse for complacency, it was a tool for reflection and preparation. As the hum of the ship's engines resonated through the deck, Kalen allowed his thoughts to wander to the deeper meaning behind the battle. Humans had proven their superiority in that skirmish, but the true essence of their strength went far beyond weapons and technology. The galaxy doesn't understand, Kalen murmured to Lyris. They see our ships, our weapons, and think that is all. They don't see what fuels us, the spirit that refuses to yield. Lyris's holographic interface flickered as she processed his words. Human resilience and adaptability recorded as operational advantage, she replied, her voice calm yet tinged with understanding. Would you like me to analyze it further? No, Kalen said, shaking his head slightly. Some things cannot be quantified. Some things cannot be reduced to numbers or probabilities. The human spirit is not a formula, it is our will to survive, our capacity to create, and our ability to endure even when everything is against us. He walked along the command deck, the faint glow of the holographic displays casting shadows across his face. Memories surfaced, childhood tales from Earth, the stories of ancestors who had faced extinction, environmental collapse, and war. Those ancestors had persevered not because they were the strongest, but because they were clever, persistent, and unyielding. They had learned to adapt, to innovate, and to turn disadvantage into advantage. Kalen reached the central observation deck, where the nebula stretched in vast, undulating colors of green, violet, and amber. The remnants of the Zyphorian fleet floated like discarded toys, a silent testament to what happens when arrogance meets underestimated ingenuity. Humanity's power had been revealed, but more importantly, their essence had been demonstrated. Intelligence, resourcefulness, and an unbreakable will. Lyris, Kalen said softly, record every tactic the Zyphorians use today. Not for vengeance, but for understanding. Every empire, every fleet, every species in the galaxy will underestimate humans eventually. We need to know how to counter that arrogance before it becomes a threat. The AI complied silently, cataloging the details with meticulous precision. Kalen watched the holographic projections of the destroyed fleet, not with pride in destruction, but with reverence for the lessons learned. Each failure, each miscalculation of the Zyphorians, was a reflection of the limits of ignorance in the face of human creativity. Kalen thought of the countless worlds humans had colonized, often in isolation, often without recognition. The galaxy had largely ignored their rise, dismissing colonies as insignificant. Yet in every corner of human space, ingenuity flourished. Entire planets were transformed through technology, adaptation, and the sheer determination of human communities. Humans were small in numbers compared to galactic empires, but the measure of their strength had never been in size. It had been in intellect, resourcefulness, and resilience. The eclipse is more than a ship, Kalen said aloud, almost to himself. It is a symbol. Not of destruction, but of potential. Humanity can survive, adapt, and triumph where others would falter. And we will not be ignored. Beyond the observation deck, the stars stretched endlessly, and Kalen's mind wandered to the philosophical implications of their encounter. Humans had often been underestimated because their potential was difficult to measure. Technology alone did not define their capabilities. It was the combination of intellect, creativity, and an indomitable spirit that made humans formidable. Empires rose and fell on predictable logic, but humans had always thrived in unpredictability, finding solutions where others saw only obstacles. Kalen's thoughts drifted to the Zyphorians. Their arrogance had been monumental, and their defeat a necessary lesson for the galaxy. But he also understood that the human strength was not cruelty, it was purpose. Every strike of the eclipse had been calculated, precise, and efficient. There was no chaos in their method. Destruction was a byproduct, not a goal. Humans did not wield power for power's sake. They wielded it to survive, to protect, and to ensure that they would not be dismissed again. The galaxy fears what it doesn't understand, Kalen said. But humans, we thrive in the unknown. We adapt. We innovate. And we endure. The hum of the eclipse's engines was a comforting rhythm, almost meditative. Kalen reflected on the centuries of human history that had led to this moment. Survival against impossible odds, wars that should have annihilated them, and catastrophes that had tested every boundary of endurance. Every hardship had forged a species capable of remarkable feats, and the eclipse was a concentrated manifestation of that legacy. Kalen walked to the tactical array once more, studying the holographic projection of the galaxy before him. Each sector, each fleet, each civilization represented a challenge and an opportunity. Humans had revealed their might, but their true power lay in their ability to think, adapt, and rise above challenges others deemed insurmountable. The galaxy would remember the eclipse, not just as a weapon, but as proof that humanity's spirit could not be ignored. "Prepare the ship for extended travel," Kalen commanded. "We will not linger. The galaxy is vast and arrogance is everywhere. We need to be ready wherever ignorance manifests." Lyris complied, the ship's systems humming smoothly as courses were plotted and energy distributions optimized. The eclipse moved silently, a ghost among the stars, carrying with it a message for every civilization. Humanity is resilient, ingenious, and unstoppable when underestimated. Kalen returned to the observation deck, his eyes tracing the faint glimmers of distant worlds. Humanity's story was far from finished. Each battle, each encounter, each revelation was a chapter in a saga of survival, intellect, and determination. The galaxy had witnessed only the beginning. The human spirit, Kalen said softly, cannot be broken. It cannot be predicted. It cannot be ignored. And the galaxy will learn that whether they are ready or not. The stars stretched endlessly, a silent testament to the possibilities of the universe. Kalen understood that the journey ahead would not be easy. Arrogance and ignorance were abundant, and the galaxy's rulers would not forgive being humbled. But humanity had something no empire could replicate: creativity, adaptability, and an unyielding will to endure. And in that, Kalen found confidence. Humanity had survived worlds, wars, and oblivion. Now it would survive, and thrive, among the stars, a force that the galaxy could no longer dismiss. The eclipse glided on, a symbol of human ingenuity, a harbinger of revelation, and a vessel carrying the spirit of a species that had refused to be overlooked. Kalen Rither's eyes burned with determination. Humanity's story was just beginning, and the galaxy would come to understand one unalterable truth: to underestimate humans is to invite catastrophe among the stars. The void was vast and silent once more, but it was a silence heavy with meaning. Debris from the shattered Zyphorian fleet drifted among the nebulous swirling gases, glowing faintly as if mourning the arrogance that had brought it to ruin. Yet amid the destruction, a singular presence moved with purpose and calm: the eclipse, cutting silently through the remnants of battle like a blade of light. Kalen Rither stood at the helm, his eyes scanning the horizon of stars, each one a distant sun, each one a potential witness to humanity's revelation. The battlefield behind him was a testament to power, strategy, and the consequences of arrogance. The galaxy had been given a lesson it would not soon forget. Humans were no longer invisible, no longer weak, and no longer to be underestimated. "Status report," Kalen said, his voice calm but resonant, echoing slightly in the control room. "All systems stable," Lyris responded. "Survivor pods have been catalogued, and information has been extracted for analysis. Remaining Zyphorian vessels are retreating at maximum warp. No immediate threats detected." Kalen nodded. The battle had ended, but the war for recognition had only begun. The galaxy's perception of humanity had shifted irrevocably. Once dismissed as insignificant, humans were now revealed as a species capable of unmatched ingenuity, resilience, and strategy. He walked along the observation deck, his gaze sweeping across the drifting remnants of Zyphorian ships. Each wrecked cruiser, each destroyed fighter told a story, not just of destruction but of the consequences of arrogance. The Zyphorians had assumed superiority, dismissed human potential, and paid a price measured in fire, plasma, and shattered pride. And yet, Kalen felt no triumph in their defeat. Humans did not conquer for glory, they revealed their strength to protect, to warn, and to survive. The galaxy has learned, he murmured. But there are more lessons to be taught. He recalled the stories passed down through generations on Earth. Humans enduring impossible odds, surviving catastrophe after catastrophe, and rising stronger each time. The same spirit now guided humanity among the stars. Technology was a tool, but the true power lay in creativity, adaptability, and the indomitable will of the human spirit. Kalen's mind drifted to the future. The galaxy was vast, full of civilizations arrogant in their own abilities, unaware of the human potential lingering in hidden corners of space. Humans had proven themselves in this encounter, but there were countless other worlds, countless other empires, all poised to make the same mistake, underestimating humanity. Lyris, plot a course for the next sector, Kalen ordered. We need to continue observing. Preparation is key. Humanity's message must be clear, consistent, and undeniable. The AI complied immediately, the ship's systems adjusting seamlessly. Holographic maps flickered with new coordinates, paths through uncharted regions of the galaxy where human ingenuity might once again be challenged, or tested. Every star, every planet, every fleet carried potential threats, but also opportunities for revelation. Kalen stepped away from the helm, moving toward the central deck. The stars stretched endlessly outside the viewports, and in their cold brilliance, he felt the weight of humanity's responsibility. Humans had survived against impossible odds on fragile worlds. Now they carried the potential to influence, to inspire, and to reshape the galaxy, not through dominance alone but through ingenuity and resilience. The Zyphorians will remember today, Kalen said softly. But this is only the beginning. Humanity must continue to show the galaxy what it means to be underestimated, and the cost of that mistake. From the observation deck, he watched as distant star systems blinked in the void. Each light represented civilizations yet to be revealed to human potential. Kalen understood that humanity's journey was far from over. There would be more challenges, more arrogance to confront, and more opportunities to demonstrate that humans were not a species to ignore. The human spirit, he whispered, cannot be contained. It adapts. It endures. Thrives. And it will never be dismissed again. He returned to the helm, his eyes steady and focused. Humanity had revealed itself through the eclipse, not as a myth, not as a legend, but as undeniable reality. The galaxy had learned a lesson in humility, strategy, and the consequences of ignorance. And Kalen, as pilot and representative of that indomitable spirit, knew the message was just beginning to ripple across the stars. Set course for the edge of the Vorith sector, Kalen commanded. The galaxy is vast and humans are patient. But when it is time, we will be ready. The eclipse moved smoothly through the void, its engines flaring faintly against the darkness. Stars stretched into long streaks of light as faster-than-light travel carried the ship forward, a lone vessel bearing the proof of humanity's capability. Each sector it passed would be another chance to observe, to learn, and to demonstrate the consequences of underestimation. Kalen allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. Humans had survived worlds, wars, and extinction events. They had been ignored, laughed at, and dismissed. Yet every challenge had refined them, every hardship had strengthened them, and every failure had prepared them for this moment. The galaxy's assumptions were no longer valid. Humanity had revealed itself fully, and the consequences of ignorance had been made undeniable. Beyond the nebula, new stars awaited, new threats and opportunities alike. The galaxy had been warned. Humans were intelligent, resourceful, and resilient. They would endure where others faltered, adapt where others failed, and thrive where others succumbed. The eclipse was merely the first symbol of that enduring truth. Kalen Rither's eyes glimmered with determination as the ship surged forward. Humanity had revealed itself, not as prey, not as insignificant, not as weak. They were a reckoning, a force defined not only by technology but by the spirit that refused to yield, the creativity that defied expectation, and the indomitable will that had carried them from fragile beginnings on a small blue planet to the vast, unforgiving expanse of the galaxy. The stars stretched endlessly before him, and Kalen knew the truth that would echo through the cosmos. The galaxy will never underestimate humans again. And as the eclipse vanished into the infinite darkness, leaving behind a trail of awe, fear, and respect, one thing was certain: the story of humanity was just beginning, and the stars themselves would bear witness to their rise.